Hello there, Ramblers, and welcome to the latest instalment of Reese Rambles, my weekly podcast all about the comings and goings and movings and shakings and all the rest of it in the worlds of vintage and retro computing and gaming. How you all doing? I hope you're all doing well. Another weekend upon us, another one down, and indeed the nights are drawing in, getting colder and darker. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus on the positive. And speaking of which, I am going to be at an event this weekend, which looks very exciting indeed. So this is the Retro Computer Festival at the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge, an excellent museum in the wonderful, beautiful, historic city of Cambridge. I'm going to be there all day with a group called the Big Red Arrow Club, who you may be familiar with, a group of YouTubers, tech YouTubers. I'm not going to start listing names because I will inevitably miss someone out and someone will be offended, but yeah, there's a load of other exhibitors at this event. So just looking at the event page here, we've got Roland Perry from Amstrad, we've got John Newcomb, and we've got John Brown, Jonathan Pallant, lots of Johns, Stephen Usher, Tony Jewell, who you may be familiar with from some of my recent videos on the SEFUCOM 21, more on that in a second, Edward Goransky, Wi-Fi Sheep, Nick Chester, Stephen Clement, Spencer Owen, Tim Gilberts, Pete Golding, Doss Fox, Rory Templeman, John Metcalf, Pixel Addict, Chris Oddy. It's a massive event. You can go to the page, which of course will be linked in the usual places. That was about half of the exhibitors, but yeah, I am in a bit of a rush. Oh, Binary Dinosaurs is going to be there as well. That's cool. Yeah, loads of cool people going to be there showing off some awesome stuff. Now, one thing I will say is that this event has sold out of pre-booked tickets, but they do have tickets available on the day, although you will need to get there early in the morning. And, of course, this starts on Saturday, the 9th of November. So, get there early if you want to get in. And if you're listening to this on your way to the thing, hoping to see some cool stuff, well, at least I'll be there. I don't know if that's any consolation. No, I'm going to have the SEFUCOM 21 with me from my recent videos, that Japanese English language teaching computer. And as mentioned, Tony Jewell, Here Be Dragons, is going to be there as well, the only other known British SEFUCOM 21 owner, and of course a name who popped up in those videos because he was helping me out with some of the research and stuff. So we'll actually have 3 of them in one place, although mine is the only one that works. Although I say mine's the only one that works, it's currently in about 1 million pieces, and I need to actually solder one of the P-ROMs back in because I took it out to dump it, ran into a load of problems, and I also ordered some sockets because I thought, well, if I've got to put it back in, I'll socket it. They haven't arrived yet. I also haven't managed to dump it because I need to build an adapter, which I need sockets for. So yeah, the whole thing's a bit of a shambles, but I'm just going to put it back together, solder that back in, check it all works, and throw it into the back of the car because I need to leave for this event in a couple of hours. So that's my current situation. If my ramble this week feels a little bit rushed, that's the reason why. And with all that in mind, I guess we'll plough on with the first story of the week. So last week I reported on the SuperSega system. Of course, this fantastical all-in-one, almost too good to be true console that's going to be supporting the Master System, the Mega Drive, Genesis, if you like, Sega Saturn, and the Dreamcast, supposedly. It's all FPGA based. And this thing has caused quite the stir in the retro world as of late. Quite a few people saying early on that it looks like some kind of scam, and then as I talked about last week, they released a very dodgy-looking video where they were accused of faking things, and they showed off a PCB that lots of people who were much smarter than me in the world of PCB design took a look at, and kind of said that there's no way this thing actually works. This can't be a real system. And I should say that I have heard from another person who is someone I do personally know. They are in the world of PCB and electronics design, and they have also confirmed to me that they've also checked this thing out. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I'm going to take their word for it. I'm not going to speak for them. I'm not going to name that person, but yeah, you know who you are, and I know that you're listening. So that's all but confirmed it to me. But there have been some more developments in the past couple of weeks that I really should report on. Now I'm going all in on the whole Super Sega scam reporting thing. So let's take a look at these from my favourite website, timeextension.com. Like I said, I'm in a rush this week. So literally the day after last week's Ramble went out, on the Sunday the 3rd, they released an update video. And this video is bizarre. So this features the boss of the Super Sega project, Alejandro Martin. And it's a very, very poorly filmed, poorly produced video where he shows up at the beginning in a Lamborghini Gallardo. So anyone who has accused him of being a scammer or anything like that. I mean, it's not really the ideal move to help your image, is it? There's also been some speculation that he doesn't actually own this car and that he's rented it. I'm not sure if that's I don't know what that is, but hey, he's. Anyway, I'll just read the story, shall I? Let's stick to the script. So the SuperSega FPGA project promises to play software from all of Sega's major consoles, yet the project has been hampered by poor communication and general skepticism from the public. The latest video from the team behind the project isn't likely to change that. Described as a review of the system, and I'm laughing because I've seen this thing. It starts with Alejandro Martin turning up in his shiny Lamborghini Gallardo before parking it, somewhat badly, we must say, and pulling out a suspect-looking cardboard box, which contains the Super Sega prototype in its new casing. I'm also laughing about the cardboard box because this thing looks like he found it in a bin or something. And then he goes... So basically, there's no editing, there's no cuts in this video. Because one of the criticisms of the previous demo video was that it had some suspicious-looking editing. So they've taken that feedback on board and decided that actually we're just going to release a video that's just one continuous take of a guy getting out of his car with a box and going into his apartment and plugging this thing in. And they even show you behind the TV as part of the video to try to prove that this isn't running on something external. And the Sega Saturn core, apparently the audio doesn't work, and they do mention in the video that this is a known bug and it's something that they are working on, which is fair enough if this is pre-release hardware. And they also don't show off the Dreamcast support again, which is kind of one of the biggest, most hyped features of the system. And it's worth noting that the company Martin references with his T-shirt at the start of the video is Cine Martin, which declared bankruptcy in 2019 after failing to produce its Fran 8K camera. Now, this was another project by the boss of the Super Sega project. So they took a load of crowdfunding money trying to produce this 8K camera, or supposedly trying to produce this 8K camera, and then the company just went bankrupt. And now he's driving around in a Lamborghini. So perhaps that tells you everything you need to know about this project. So following on from that, there was another update. And of course, there was a lot of criticism of that first video. People saying, why is this such a terrible video? So they put out an official announcement addressing that. And they basically said that they're worried that Analog, the people that make of course, the Pocket and the various other consoles, there's that N64, the Analog 3D or whatever it's called that's coming out soon that I also reported on recently. And they're basically worried that Analog are going to steal their ideas, and that's why they put out deliberately such low-quality videos, just in case anyone from their big competitor is watching. Quite how they would be able to get access to the FPGA and steal the code and stuff, I'm not quite sure. And, I mean, I'm just looking at this PCB here. This thing looks ridiculous. Evidently, they're not just going to rip off the PCB design either. I mean, these are the top people in the FPGA business. They don't need to go ripping off ideas from, to put it charitably, startups, I guess. I'm trying not to use the word scammers here. But perhaps more importantly, a lot of people paid a €3 deposit for this system. It was like an early, kind of a backing thing. You could basically pay €3 to secure one of the first sort of batch of 1,000 of these consoles. Now, what a lot of people didn't notice, and what wasn't actually kind of widely advertised at the time, was that this wasn't a one-off €3 payment. This was like a pre-authorization that would set you up for a future recurring billing, so they can actually go back and charge these people's cards the full amount. Now, there's a lot of victim blaming going on here, and people saying that people should have read the terms and conditions and they should have been aware of that. But I reported on it at the time, and I wasn't aware of this. And to be honest, I'm not one for victim blaming, This is not entirely above board. So they've charged a load of people €3, and then as of this week, they've suddenly charged people the full €420. No email going out saying that they're going to be doing this. They very recently updated their website saying that they would be charging people, but it wasn't very clear that this would apply to. This would apply to existing pre-orders and stuff. So this actually came from Slopes, a good friend of mine. And he was the first one that kind of reported this and kind of started publicly talking about it. Of course, well known for his backing of the Intellivision Amico as well. So, there is that. Not the luckiest guy on YouTube, but there we go. Of course, he's enthusiastic about his retro gaming tech and stuff, and I can't really blame him for that. But he has been charged the full €375 plus shipping. less than a day after he submitted his pre-order. And this has applied to hundreds of people, all of the people who basically initially paid that €3 payment. So yeah. In fact, here's what it says on the SuperSega site. From the 4th of November and until the end of November 2024, you can pre-order your unit. A first batch of 300 to 500 units approx that were charged to those who were pre-reserved with commitment before 4th of November, as well as to those who pre-order until the 30th of November, will be delivered early 2025. End of November, beginning of December, we will launch a crowdfunding campaign, and for those who pre-reserved without commitment, we will send a link to pre-order on the crowdfunding website to be chosen as of now. If we not reach the goal, all or nothing on crowdfunding, then only those 300 to 500 units will be delivered. Pre-order Super Sega by paying €375 plus shipping until the 30th of November 2024. And then they've also issued a statement. No, that's an error. See updated website for more info. We're going to produce a first small batch. These people will get an early unit by early 2025. Yesterday was 3rd of November. We said until the 4th of November today when we taken the decision to continue, produce this small batch and charge the pre-reserves with commitment, the amount €375 plus 45 international shipping. So the whole thing, I mean, the fact that English isn't their first language and they evidently don't have someone who is fluent in English on their team is not helping with the whole communication situation. But it seems a lot of people, potentially 300 to 500 people have been charged 400 odd euros completely out of the blue. So also not looking very well for them. And finally, that's that same story again about why they're producing these poor quality videos. So this was again on Monday, but I pretty much already addressed that story. So again, the whole thing is just madness. So if you are involved with this, if you did pay the €3 and they have taken your money, you have my sympathy. I'm not going to blame you for that. Hopefully you did it on a credit card. Maybe you could consider a chargeback or something if you don't think this project is entirely legit. At the very least, I think the whole thing looks like a complete shambles. But then I have kind of expressed opinions and passed judgment on things in the past, and got myself in a little bit of trouble for it. So that's just kind of reporting the latest developments on the thing. You are free to make up your own mind. And I'm sure there's probably already comments on this video to that effect. So there we go. Let's move on. Yeah, sorry if that previous story was a little bit all over the place, but that pretty much sums up the story of the Super Sega, to be honest. I'm not really sure if there's a more coherent way to report on it. So anyway, we've moved on. So let's move on to a slightly more positive story from the world of FPGA gaming this week. And this is to do with the Taki Udon DE10 Nano clone. And if you remember, this is something that I've been covering for quite a while now. This is a lower cost clone of the DE10 Nano board, which is, of course, at the heart of the Mr. FPGA project. And it's $99, which is an absolute steal. It's like less than half the price of the proper official board. Everyone said it couldn't be done, but the first batch is out there. People have started receiving them. People have started testing them. And the feedback has been pretty much universally excellent on those, especially regarding stuff like compatibility with existing Mr. hardware and stuff like that, which is absolutely excellent. But there has been a bit of a backlash. So let's see what Taki has to say about this. Now, apparently people have been saying mean things about his project on Reddit. So he has responded the best way that you can possibly respond by giving everyone a further $5 off the second batch. So this is even cheaper. So here's the tweet. A group of individuals with a competing interest are angry that we are selling affordable Mr. hardware. As a middle finger to them, and thanks to the people who actually matter, all batch 2 Mr. Pi are $5 off. If you were threatened before this, it's going to get much worse. Now, I must admit, I didn't look into this. I've had enough drama for 1 week, to be honest, but apparently this is to do with a Reddit thread from a competitor of his. And yeah, in response to that, if you get in on the batch 2 pre-order, which are currently testing, they're currently going through QA, and then will be available on Taki's site, you get $5 off everything. So we've got the Mr. Pi Retro Gaming FPGA board / base kit. This is $94.99. It reduced from $99. We've got the FPGA board Mega Pack, which has got the board that I can never remember the name of with all the I/O stuff on the top. Is it called the I/O board? Probably is, isn't it? That's reduced from $160 to $155. And we've got the Turbo Pack, which also includes a case, and that's been reduced from 185 to 180. All those prices in US dollars, of course. Remember to add shipping and whatnot if you are outside of the US. So, yeah, quite a cool response to his critics there. Give everyone another $5 off and make people even happier. So, yeah, I must admit, who is the competitor? He is refusing to say. He's refusing to link directly to the drama, and to be honest, that's probably for the best. But if you know a bit more about this, maybe you could let people know down in the comments. Bit of a clue here: cheaper and better. Beat those funkers. Wonder who it might be. My next story this week is all about a game that is very dear to my heart, and if you're a regular viewer of these rambles on YouTube, or indeed any of my videos at all over on my main channel, you'll no doubt be familiar with my Doom Shrine in the background, which you can just about see. There is a honking great PC in the way this week. This is all to do with my latest video that went out today, by the way. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to talk about that. But yeah, Doom, probably my favourite game of all time if I were pushed to choose a favourite, although there is a bit of a short list. But also a game that's well known for being ported to all sorts of weird and wonderful devices and platforms. And yep, it's been ported to yet another platform. And this week, it's a Nintendo platform, which is very interesting. And it's not a games console, as you might expect. I know, allow me to explain. So this is the Nintendo Alarmo alarm clock. And this video here from Gary Odenicht, which sounds very German to me, shows Doom running, and you can also go and download it yourself. It's all open source and you can build it yourself and run it on your own Nintendo Alarmo. So yeah, this is an alarm clock that Nintendo released a couple of weeks ago, and it's interactive. It's all controlled via this touch-sensitive knob on the top, and the way that you play Doom is by, well, as you can see in the video, caressing the knob. But anyway, let's not let that detract from the impressive technical achievement that this quite obviously is. You can see the game's actually running pretty nicely. I think this is based on Chocolate Doom. It actually says it down in the description. And STM32 Doom, which is obviously a port to the STM32 microcontroller, which I guess the Alarmo is based on. I must admit, this isn't my area of expertise. Now, this doesn't support audio at the moment. It says there's currently no audio support. And also, there is a restriction on stuff that can be loaded via USB. So if you want to play the full version of Doom, you have to do some jiggery-pokery to do with compressing the WAD file and stuff. But you can actually just load the shareware version of Doom straight on there and start playing it straight away. And as mentioned, this is open source, so there is a GitHub as well. And you can go here, very, very simple to get this built. And then... get it transferred onto a USB stick and onto your Nintendo Alarmo alarm clock. So another platform there supporting Doom, and another very noble porting effort, which I'm all very much for. And yeah, the Nintendo Alarmo, which, to be honest, I hadn't really paid much attention to up until this point, but it looks quite fun. Just a quick note to let you know about the latest release over on my main channel, ctrl-alt-rees. As you will probably know if you're a long-term listener, I've been trying to keep up this streak of weekly releases by releasing videos on a Friday morning, UK time. They tend to go out around kind of 10, 11 a.m.-ish, whenever I remember to press the button, basically. And I'm not distracted by work stuff. And this week has been no exception. So that's 10 weeks in a row, a 10-week weekly streak of videos. I nearly managed to make that rhyme. Anyway, this one is all about the Microsoft Return of Arcade Pack, which was released in 1996. This was a collection of officially licensed Namco arcade games for Windows 95, which you may be familiar with. They did a few packs in this series, which of course I talk about in the video, talk about the history of the series. And I also get it installed on a PC, unbox it all, show you what you got in the box, and indeed check out the games and remind you all how terrible I am of games. There's also a technical issue that I have to overcome with Windows 95 and joystick drivers, and yeah, the whole thing is a bit of a journey. But yeah, it was a bit of a bit of a kind of quicker, kind of lighter video this week. But it's something I've had sat on the shelf for the longest time, and I just wanted to kind of finally talk about it, show off what it was all about, and buy myself a little bit of time to work on some bigger, longer running projects I'm sure you can probably guess what those are. So that's the latest released from my channel, and of course that will be linked in the usual places. And so, conscious that I am of my time very rapidly slipping away to get this Sefucom back together, ready for the show at Cambridge this weekend, I suppose I should get on with my video of the week. Of course, my weekly segment where I recommend a video that has entertained, inspired, informed, or otherwise educated me over the past week over on YouTube. Maybe all of the above, maybe none of the above. Could go either way. You never know. And I'm going to recommend a video from a fellow member of the Big Red Arrow Club who's going to be joining me and exhibiting alongside me at Cambridge this weekend. And this chap goes by the name of Goldfish on Games, and someone I've met many times in the past at various shows and things. A really lovely guy and very knowledgeable about his games and things. In fact, he actually works in the industry. But yeah, he doesn't usually do hardware projects. He has covered hardware on his channel before, various interesting peripherals and game controllers and stuff like that. But yeah, not really known for his kind of hardware tinkering content. And he did actually ask for some feedback on this, as he was putting this video together, because it was kind of outside of his wheelhouse, and I think he's done a bloody good job of it. I think it's actually a genuinely great video. So what he's done he's taken a Game Gear, of course, Sega's well-known handheld portable colour console from back in the day, and converted it into a home console that you can plug into your TV using something called the the GGTV board. Clicked on the wrong tab there. So this is a board that adds RGB, S-video and composite video output to the Game Gear. And usually this would be installed in such a way that you would install it inside the Game Gear itself and add some kind of external port so you can plug a cable into your TV and play it that way. But what he's actually done is design his own enclosure for this to turn it into a proper console. And this is 3D printable. It's over on Thingiverse, so you can actually get the STL files and print it yourself. And yeah, the video basically covers the entire kind of design and build process of this. And it's called How I Turned a Game Gear into a Console. So yeah, if you're familiar with these hardware tinkering type videos, we've got the top-down shot of all of the assembly process explaining how all of the different bits and pieces work, the kind of 3D design process of the case and everything else. And then all culminating in the kind of the final assembly and the demo of the whole thing in action. He also addresses the whole question of, well, isn't this just a Master System? Because, of course, the Game Gear was famously based on the Master System. The answer to that question is no, and the more detailed answer to that is in the video itself. And like I say, it's just a fun 25 minutes. It's a really cool little project, and also all of the bits and pieces and the files and stuff are available if you want to try to replicate this and build one for yourself, because famously, the screens are dying, quite sadly, on all of these old Game Gear consoles. They're a very common failure point. There are, of course, modern screens and things available, but this is another way to enjoy all of your favourite Game Gear games if you decide to go down this route. So that's my video of the week. It's 25 minutes and 39 seconds long from a channel called Goldfish on Games. Very good personal friend of mine, so go and give him a subscribe, if nothing else, and check out his videos on Amiga and magazine cover discs and retro game reviews and that kind of thing, because he's a good egg. My final story for this week is all about a platform which I've never actually covered in the past, either in these rambles or over on my main channel. A platform so obscure that it was only actually around for a couple of years and only had a handful of games released for it. And yet, it's a household name that you will almost definitely have heard of. How can that be possible? Well, I will put you out of your misery. This is the original Clickwheel iPod. So I say original, obviously this isn't the original with the black and white screen. This is the kind of the slightly later model with the colour screen, the iPod Video. But yeah, for a couple of years, Apple actually made games available for sale on iTunes for these devices. And then all of a sudden, abruptly stopped selling games, probably because they didn't work very well, because they used the Clickwheel interface. But apparently there are a few kind of diamonds in the rough on the platform and a few quite unique and interesting things that are worth checking out. And to be honest, as you'll probably know if you are a regular viewer, a regular listener, you'll know that I'm all for game preservation in all of its forms. The good, the bad, absolutely everything is historically significant, I think. So my hat is off to the person who has put this preservation effort together. Because that's basically the crux of the story. Up until this point, there hasn't been a big coordinated effort to preserve these games because so few people bought them, and because the DRM on them has never been cracked, so essentially these games are permanently tied to people's devices and people's accounts, it's basically been nigh on impossible to actually copy them from these iPods onto other iPods. But someone has found a workaround. So this is a virtual machine that you can download, and essentially you can actually have you can have your iPod connected to multiple accounts. I must admit, I don't fully understand this because I'd never actually owned one, but you can have it connected to multiple accounts, and then you can share things between those accounts. And what they've essentially done is made a giant shared account, and you can download this virtual machine. You can sync your own iPod up to it, and if you own any of the games that aren't already associated with this account, you can sync them over. And the whole thing basically works offline, and the whole thing is genius. So this story over on Ars Technica explains it far, far better than I ever could. But essentially, this is an effort that has been set up by a Reddit user called Olsro. And yeah, they have essentially over time built up, coordinated with various different iPod owners who own, one or two of these games, and built up this virtual machine which can synchronize with all of these different devices and has all of these games available. So if you own one of these iPods, you can actually download it, you can sync your own iPod to it and add it as like an authorized, authorized kind of account on this. Like I say, it's all offline. It doesn't tie it, it doesn't give people control of your iTunes account or anything kind of nefarious like that. And then you can actually download the games, and that's basically a huge workaround, and probably one that Apple couldn't have foreseen when they were first doing this back in 2006, I think it's fair to say. So yeah, if you have one of these gathering dust in a drawer somewhere and you want to check out some of these games that you've missed out on back in the day, this is the project for you. And of course, this will be linked in the usual places. And that's that. So that's all of my stories for the Ramble this week. Hope you've enjoyed joining me once more for a very rushed effort, but I promise I'll be back on it next week. I promise. But I've got to get the Cefucom put back together, ready for this event down at the Cambridge Computer Museum. And as said right at the top of this ramble, if you are on your way, making your way down or across, or up, or indeed anyway, to come and join us at the event, I would very much like to meet you. And yeah, provided you're normal or normalish. I mean, none of us really are we? Anyway, let's go put this computer back together. Thanks ever so much, and I shall see you same time, same place next week. Bye.